But hello, you lovelies, and welcome to Coycast Remote Edition, the first of its kind, and I will say that we just had the classic 3, 2, 1 action movie breakdown. We'll explain in a second, but I am Coy Jandro. This is a pop culture about comic books, movies, people, and I forget without the sign what this is about, but that's the show is.
That was atrocious.
Dude,
that was atrocious.
I honestly, I think I became sign
you said
reliant.
you said this is a pop culture.
This is.
So listen, I'm going to put this out here, okay? Everybody who out there says Coy is the greatest host alive, clearly not without a fucking cue card.
Guy, I have two deterrents. One, I have a horrible head cold. Two, it's the first time we're doing something remotely. And three, my cat just left and I'm sad.
See, some of us had wherewithal to write down notes like professionals.
I tried to do this.
Because we don't have our usual big screen to saving our butts for phone numbers and emails and all that stuff.
Okay, let me see if I remember it. I'm Coy Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and people. And then I say,
is that so hard?
It seemingly was. It seemingly was.
Apparently answer that question.
I am joined, as ever, by the great, now East Coast temporarily based Jake Lloyd Bacon. He is back on the, some might say, better side of the country, and he is enjoying actual seasons. I love me some California, but I am not jealous. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing all right. We're doing the best we can. Coycast has been, a bi-curious for a very long time, and we are now officially bi-coastal.
I'm glad we've accepted we had to go on a journey, and that's actually going to be part of the show, is our journey to bi-coastality today. I'm very curious to hear about.
Also, before we get there, this is just going to be the disclaimer, because this is the very first ever remote recording. Coy and I, speaking of being in the Northeast, Coy and I both are from the Northeast. We're both crosstalkers, and how we're going to manage being on a Zoom recording and not speaking over each other for the entirety of the episode, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I'm literally watching Jake via a phone Zoom using a Zoom recorder to try to make sure I'm not talking over him. So I'm visually trying to do what I used to do, but the New England in both of us is definitely strong. There are concerns, but I think we got and it will improve. And actually, the fact we've gotten this far with technology on Ep1, I'm pretty proud of us.
I mean, we didn't. I told you, Coy, last week when we attempted to record and fail. I told you, don't worry, I'll just record something and put it out, and I'll just tell them that we needed more time to get settled. Of course, what you don't know now, Coy, but the listeners do know, is I had no intention of actually telling the fans that. Instead, I immediately threw you under the bus and explained to them that you are so technologically impaired that you didn't think you might need a SD card, a memory card, to record audio onto. Because I guess in your world, you just speak into a microphone and then the universe just remembers it.
You see, this is why I have producers. This is why I work on places that have teams. And this is why, Jake is my team for this show, because he knows the little things like, technology. And also, everybody's like, why in the pandemic and in the age of TikTok, why everything has shifted? It's because troglodytes like me that don't understand SD cards are part of the process have lost their way. I'm so good at talking once I have literally lighting, cameras, and sound recordings pointed at me, but that part of the 7/8 of the equation that I cannot handle, here we are.
Well, listen, again, it was enjoyable for me to throw you under the bus last week. I'm assuming
a 1 week delay is not bad considering. Now I'm going to go back. No. I always check the SAS retroactively. A 1 week delay considering what we both like. The world changed. We're doing okay.
All right. That is true. The world did change. Last week, in that little we'll be back next week thing that I uploaded, I did tease to the listeners that I did have some Schadenfreude to share. And again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Schadenfreude?
I always thought it was Schaden because that looks like, but I mean, pronunciation unless you hear, it's like all the stuff in Doctor Strange. Whenever I didn't know how they pronounced anything. German is just as confusing to me as Magic Limbo.
Maestro. It's not it's Maestro.
To this day, if they ever put Maestro in the movies, I'm going to be like, you're mispronouncing it, Marvel. That is clearly a Maestro. And Bradley Cooper's got that Maestro movie coming out this year. Every time I see a poster, I think of you laughing at me at Maestro.
Great. And unlike unlike me with Dark Seed, Dark Side, where they actually made a joke about it in Harley Quinn, you're not going to get that vindication.
And also, it's not an invented word. Like the word maestro has been used for hundreds of years.
Yes. Well, anyways, I'll share my brief Schadenfreude just because one, I love pity, and two, Coy doesn't know this yet, and three, back to the me loving pity part. Okay, so as the listeners know a little bit of, Alexandra and I had to temporarily relocate to the Northeast to take care of some family stuff that we're dealing with. Nothing bad. It's nothing horrible. It's just, it made sense for us to come and be here with family to do a specific thing for a little while. We put the vast majority of everything we own into a storage unit, back home in LA. And decided the cheapest possible way to get here was just to tow a small trailer with all of our crap that we needed here, right? Like all of my podcast equipment, another, our clothing, that kind of stuff. Just a very small little 4x8 trailer, tiny. That was the smartest way to get here, just to tow that across the country. We didn't make it past day one. We got to Utah, and I blew the transmission on my Jeep.
I can't believe it wasn't even past day one. Like the fact that this happened that quickly. You were closer to here by like 4/5.
We ended up on the side of the road with a blown transmission for a 25-year-old car and a trailer. And we needed to get a tow to a local town. And I'm going to tell you now, I was miserable. We ended up getting stranded for 2 extra days. It became quite apparent that we weren't going to be able to fix my vehicle in enough time to make it warrant fixing it there, right? Because we would have had to stay in the middle of this Utah town for, 2 weeks or some shit like that, right? So we had to trade in our small trailer, the cheapest option, for a 10-foot U-Haul that we could then tow my dead vehicle with.
The imagery, I just got to give a little, like the fact that you traded the towing for the tower and then he had to like pay for that is so, because those U-Hauls are like by the mile and gas and days.
I'm not shy. Listen, I know it's tacky to talk numbers. I'll talk numbers. The original trailer rental, the little trailer, was $900. We did that because that was the cheapest possible outcome. By the time we trade it back in for a U-Haul to rent and then have an auto mover that tow the car with, and now dealing with repairing my Jeep, we're looking at about $8-9 grand.
Whoa.
From $900.
Yeah, I've been.
Is it recording? Are you sure it's recording? Bless you.
It's recording. Things are going great.
All right, so we just, after what you just heard, we recorded then for an additional 20 minutes.
Great stuff.
And it was a captivating conversation. We spoke all about capitalism. We spoke all about small town sensibilities. We talked about talking about money with your peers and your coworkers and being more open, and how the working class being more transparent is what the capitalists don't want. It was a great conversation. It's a shame you couldn't hear it, listeners.
I wish he was kidding. That's exactly what just happened. I think we should summarize, give the people what we gleaned. Basically, I was talking about how I've lived in LA 14 years now in November, and how I think if I went to a small town like good old Chuck in southern Utah, I would feel like here I'm one of the kinder people that people are confused by how I interact with others, how I want to talk to everyone, how I make sure people, as best I can, feel seen and heard and taken care of. But the idea of driving a stranger around town is insane to me. That said, I think if I was in a small town, I wonder how much I'd be that insane city boy, egotistical douchebag to them as compared to me being like a small town kind person in LA. But now that I've been out here 14 years, it's that weird threshold of like, what would I be there? Because I don't think I could be Chuck. That guy sounds like an angel. That's not how people are.
I don't think they know who Chuck. I don't think that part was kept in the recording. By the way, we didn't explain to people what happened. Is we recorded for 20 minutes, and then Coy looked down and was like, "Oh, my player is off, and his battery died."
We did say in the opening how bad I was at technology, and then it was like, "Hey, let's just test that theory fully."
But I don't think we got to me talking about. I think we only got to me explaining what happened, and not to the joys that were being trapped in Cedar City, Utah.
Guys, chaos is here, and it's here to stay. Hopefully, just for this week.
Let's move on in general and talk a little bit about the WGA.
Yeah, the writer strike has ended officially. They accepted the terms. The writers are asking for, in my opinion, and in, I think, the opinion of anyone that's fully informed on the situation, a very reasonable series of things. They wanted a reasonable pay bump that doesn't even keep up with inflation. They wanted AI protection rights, and at this point, AI isn't the iRobot that a lot of people think it is. It is a literal plagiarism tool. It is a copy and paste. It is taking people's actual work that human beings made and subverting it and copying it and turning it into something else. And they wanted a certain minimum writers staffing requirement because a lot of people are working 100-hour weeks and getting paid very little. And I know for a fact some people are being written like they have teams of writers, and a lot of times people that are new writers will literally be paid in half. Like they'll hire 2 writers and say it's one writer in order to save money, and that is, these writers are so desperate to get work, they're like, okay, fine, I'm a new writer. So they have minimum staffing requirements, which helps new writers to get into the fold. It allows people to not work 100 hours. It is a very reasonable ask, and all that was approved within 10 days of an actual negotiation starting. And I do think, though we missed the juice of our conversation earlier about money because of tech and my ignorance, I do think that it is important to look at the writer's strike as a huge win for the baseline person. A lot of people that don't understand what this town is think that writers are all millionaires. That is not the case. A lot of people think that even actors are all millionaires. And that I can see more that perspective, because I think in the 80s and 90s, celebrity culture and fame really manipulated and changed the perception of actors. But 80-some% of actors can't even get health insurance, and 90-some% of actors don't make above the poverty level. So if you actually look at those numbers, it's not laziness, it's job availability. It is the likelihood that you've worked 10 years to get to the point where you can now pay your rent. And people don't realize that there was a big breakdown of, I think it was the new Wes Anderson film Asteroid City, where there was a pay release of Scarlett Johansson making like 24, I don't remember the exact numbers, so don't quote me and then be like, brah. But she made like $24,000 for 10 weeks work. And there were so many people like, oh my God, I wish I could make $24,000. And that one is going to break down to less than minimum wage by the time you look at 16-hour days on set. That 2 is going to break down to her losing a 10% of that to her agent, 10% of that to her manager, 20% of that to her attorneys, 25 to 30% of that to taxes, because the way you're paid on set is, imagine making $2,000 every day, and your tax like that is every single day of your life. So if you're making $50,000 in a day, it's taxed like you make $50,000 300 days a year, and they tax accordingly. People don't realize any of this stuff. So when you look at what people actually walk away with, a $10 million actor, which doesn't really exist anymore, walks with 5, and they probably fought 25 years to get to the point where they walk with 5. People aren't paid what it looks like fame in LA and all that stuff are. And that was our conversation we lost, was having conversations about what money actually is, whether you're working at a dentist's office or at a restaurant or as a freelance painter, talking to your peers about what money actually is the only way that we're going to get to a fair wage. Actually having transparent conversations, because the only people that are saving money by not paying you are the people that are making their billions and even tens of millions at the middle level of these insane top of line company owners, and that only benefits them by not being transparent. And I think we've gotten to a point where, because the internet, because of more transparency, because of Gen Z being so vocal, that's not going to be acceptable anymore. Like, this country cannot run on gas being $8 a gallon because $4 of that goes into the pockets of people, and it actually should cost $4. Gas is $97 an oil drum right now, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. Yes, we need to switch to not gas. This is just one little example, but that profit is profit. It's not cost. And I think with writers, when, David Zaslav makes a $97 million bonus and the company is hemorrhaging money and he's just running it for 5 years so he can throw it away, we need to look at the people that actually made that art for you, not at the people complaining that art is costing more.
Right. And there's also something we said, sort of about the looking at the people. It's a lot of this is also an argument about just the piece of the pie. Like, yes, it's the money in this industry isn't the writers, and it isn't the actors. You might think, even the ScarJos of the world, you're talking about 1% of every fucking actor, and like the majority of the actors are the ones down the line, down the call sheet, who aren't making anything. And then you have just, it's a huge union, unionized industry, thankfully. But like, even so, the pieces of the pie that these unions have fought for, all of G&E, all Grip and Electric, all your hair and makeup team, your wardrobe, your art department, all of these people, like, they're all working on a product that at the end of the day will create a profit. And they are not getting paid of that profit. They are getting paid via an investment from producers to then create their own profit, right? It's the idea that let's say, Coy, I'm going to pay you, $15 an hour to record this show. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to sell ad space on this show for $10 million. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the reality is like, how much of the pie do these artists deserve up and down the line, up and down the call sheet, up and down every facet of every department?
CEO should not be making 400 times, right, which is the number.
Exactly.
400 times.
Exactly. Yes. And the writers, one would think, should be at the top of the fucking list. They came up with this shit.
None of it exists without them.
Yeah.
Plenty of things exist without suits. And that's what this conversation is I get that the producer is the one at risk. I understand that the person that's putting up money is the one risking everything in order for it to get made. That doesn't mean they're entitled to everyone beneath them making nothing and not surviving, or those people having to work hours that aren't human. I'm part of definitely the problem. Like 2 years ago, I would have been one of those entrepreneur bros, like, yeah, it's all hustle, it's all grind. Like, I definitely love all that shit. Like, I'm all about hard work. And I definitely fall into a lot of like the Joe Rogan, David Goggins culture of like hustle entrepreneur. A lot of my TikTok is like, get it. And like, I stand by that being important. But I recently, like literally in the last, I'd say 2 to 5 years, have seen that, like, if you're, to use a gym metaphor, because I'm a bro, if you go to the gym and you curl, you still have to extend that curl. I was so good at curling. I'm so bad at stretching. I'm so bad at extending. I'm so bad at meditating and napping and fucking sleeping. I don't sleep enough. And you don't get the gains, bros, unless you get the extension of that arm. And I think that people working 16 hours a day can be wicked proud of that. And look at all your hustle. But you're not living if you're sleeping 6 hours, working 16, and you've got 2 to get to and from work, or that's your time to see your friends and family. You don't get inspiration when you're just grinding. And you also, even if you're not in a creative field, if you're working as someone that's, like, say you work at Walmart, and you don't talk about the transparency of how often you have to work, how long your commute is, all that shit, you're not living, you're missing your 20s, 30s, 40s and shit. So I think this giant unionization movement that's happening with the auto workers, that's happening with the internet industry, the film industry is
Starbucks is leading. Huge. Starbucks is leading this country's union efforts.
And the UPS thing that just was a huge victory. Like, Starbucks is a great example because that's a very good entry-level job for people that are learning the workforce. You still should be able to live your life and sustain a lifestyle, because Starbucks shouldn't be skyrocketing in profits. It shouldn't be. It should be maintaining and growing. It should be a realistic growth. But you as a person that's helping that thing grow should be making enough to live. So have conversations about money and don't be a dick about other people making money. It's just, I hope we see a shift, and Gen Z seems to be a really beautiful fucking generation of people like vocalizing shit. They're very extra, but I respect that about them because it's getting shit seen.
Well, let's talk about the other side of this. Obviously, the resolution is apparent, and shows are coming back. At least the non-SAG struck shows, since obviously SAG-AFTRA still in strike. But I'm really looking forward to the John Olivers of the world coming back.
That's my
I'm
shit.
really looking forward. Also, just like it'll be funny to see where they have to go with the last months, because there's been so much that's happened since the writer's strike. I mean, how many months? It began when?
110 days of strike. So it was. So I think it was a little over 110. It was 8 days from the longest writer's strike.
Right. So you figure a lot's happened in the 4 months or so. You know what I mean? That they've been on strike for.
Well, and not only that, but it's also really interesting that they're going to come back without actors. They're going to have more time to actually express the stuff their writers have put together for them, which is going to be interesting. And I'm really curious if, because the writer's strike, once they actually started negotiating, was 10 days. So as of us recording, today's day 1 of negotiations for SAG. I think SAG is back by Friday. Like, straight up, I think that if it took 10 days for writers, there's so much precedent in the stuff they were asking for actors. Actors are much more of the visual and vocal side of things, where it's like bad optics if they don't come back.
Yeah, I was going to say the press. It's much easier to slander writers
Yeah, because they don't have ironically they're voiceless. Like in this situation, it's harder.
No, 100%.
So I think the actors come back faster. I think this might actually end before mid-October, and then we actually have I know this doesn't matter to a lot of people, but it matters to the wallets. Then we have an award season. Then we have the prestige cinema season. The actors can promote stuff. Like right now, I've never seen more press from Martin Scorsese because Leo can't do anything. So like we're living in a really interesting time. So I think this is over. I mean, within reason from you hearing this, dear viewer, I'm really curious how the deal goes because the actors have a lot to lose from not standing their ground with the AI stuff. As of the time we're recording this, there is no language about AI for actors. Right. And you could literally prompt, a high-level AI and say, like, I want someone that's part Brad Pitt, part Bradley Cooper, and with the mannerisms of Leonardo DiCaprio, and render something. Tom Hanks is suing a company because some dental company made an AI composite of Tom Hanks that's selling dental shit. That is fully theft, but there's no precedent. So we need to have some very strong AI language by the end of the week.
I'm not confident as much as you are. I'm hopeful, but I'm not as confident. I think it seems like a very similar territory, but I think from the eyes of the producers, it seems like the actors are asking for more conceits. Not that they don't deserve 100% of them, but that's I think from the odds of
part of the conversation.
I think it's going to be they're going to be much. Yeah, I think the actors have a much steeper climb personally.
And I think that with the money being lost, I know the writers coming back is going to help. It's going to help stop the hemorrhaging, but it's still bleeding out. And I think that now that we've bled out to such a level, I think that we've shown the AMTP, whatever that acronym, they're more desperate than previously revealed because of the concessions. Like the writers got everything.
And I think that we didn't really talk about it, but I think one of the reasons why things shifted so drastically is the fall TV schedule for a lot of these networks started to crumble. And then I don't think that everybody was fully aware that some of the, quote, unscripted shows were also WGA struck shows, because you don't think of Dancing with the Stars as being a WGA style show because it's, quote, unscripted, but everything is scripted. All of those promo packages all have writers, all of the all of the presentations. Every presenter on that show is reading a teleprompter, and WGA writers wrote what's on that teleprompter. We think of the writers just as the creative writers writing narrative works, but WGA writers also write game show copy.
Mm-hmm. Which is great union work. That shows the power of union, because that is an integral part of the industry.
Exactly. They also write game show copy. They write reality show copy. They write, there's a lot of material that I don't think, some of the suits would be realized. Like, oh, who cares if we're not going to have, whatever crappy Netflix show they think people aren't watching, as long as we have our clickbaity Bachelorette season 473, that kind of stuff.
The high profit, low cost David Zaslav shit that he thought was going to make his Max thing an actual force isn't.
Right.
And I love that we're living in a time where people are realizing how much writers do in real time, including the suits.
Yeah. You can't put the WB on the back of House Hunters or whatever the fuck shit he thought.
Not anymore. And that's going to prevent a lot of the 2008 strike stuff from that was a time when writers weren't, a lot of WGA writers weren't on the reality TV stuff to scale because it was so new. Like reality TV was newer then. It's had 15 years to evolve into what it is today. I personally, it's not my thing, but for the people that it is, now they expect a certain level of quality that would not fly, that was flying in 08. And that, and it's gonna, that's why another reason I think this is over pretty quickly. I hope, and that could just be optimism, because I didn't think, I thought this was till February, to be honest.
Me too.
Strikes were
That's
till
why
February.
I came to the other side of the country and thought everything would be fine and I wouldn't have to worry about losing work. And now you motherfuckers are going to go back to work and people are going to be calling me and I'm going to be like, yeah, sorry, I am not there right now.
It's okay. What's $9,000 that was supposed to be 900? What's a 1,000% uptick? Everything's fine.
Anyways.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're living in a really interesting time. I think the film industry is just the most visual and the most publicized of the strikes. But like you said, Starbucks, UPS, we're living in a shift. I hope it can be to scale, because I do worry. If this doesn't happen now, when will it? And I don't think this bullshit Reaganomics that we've pretended works. Like trickle-down economics have been proven not to work. Capitalism is fucking on its last legs of the the bastion of capitalism that we pretend the current one is. I think that might shift before we die. I don't know if we'll get to live in a better time for what money is like, but I hope my grandkids do. And I hope that like the changes that we make now affect the next 2 generations. So it's worth fighting for the future.
Right. Yeah. And there's something that I learned personally too, is that sometimes the allies aren't even the allies, because capitalism will come for the best of you.
Oh yeah, money's great, man. I love fucking money.
One day I'll share publicly the story about the labor podcast that we were producing on the program that ceased to exist very suddenly and abruptly, and I'll explain to everybody maybe why that stopped happening.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very specific.
Which is a little bit of tea that I have yet to give out to the people. It's been almost a year now. I think maybe after a year, I'll spill the beans on even the most socialist of people. Still, at the end of the day, all they care about is their bottom line.
Well, if you're around money all the time, if you're around this, like, there's no way to be clean of it and live.
Also, there's not a single rich person who didn't get rich by being by not being a capitalist, and ultimately, you know what I mean? Like, there's
no way to climb the ladder and just be truly altruistic. It's just not. Absolutely. And that's why, like, I look at billionaires and I go like, not a fan, but then I try to go like, okay, Mark Cuban's doing that prescription thing. Like I try to find the good instead of the bad, because the bad's easy. Like the bad's easy to find.
Right.
So like as an optimist, I was like, okay, how do we do it? Yeah.
Right, of course.
But yeah, so that's enough politic talk for this episode of Coycast.
Well, listen, we've got a lot going on. It's been kind of a crazy day. Again, we apologize. You guys lost about 20 minutes of what was our original conversation. Are you still recording, Coy? Is everything still looks good? I just checked
as I said that last line. I got levels.
Looks good. We have a lot of stuff to do today. And I know there's a lot of pop culture shit going on that maybe we have omitted to discuss, but we're still settling in. We have plenty of time to do all that. Listen to the Patron only pod. We've watched a ton of great stuff. I watched, speaking of you being one of those finance bros 20 years ago, potentially, I watched a movie that you liked and I fucking loved. And one of the characters reminded me of you very much so.
Is it a certain guy who plays Ken in a very awesome outfits?
No, it's not that. It's a different thing. But
okay, very intrigued.
But in any case, we have a lot of fun stuff to chat about. I went to a Broadway show that is absolutely insane that I want to talk about on the Patron only pod. This is me just trying to get people to be like, oh, you guys aren't talking about a lot of pop culture shit on the main feed. Well, we are over on the Patron pod, so head on over and become a patron at patreon.com/Coycast, and get off our backs, will you? We're doing the best we can. And plus, we have a lot of important things that we have to do today. We need to name a new official unpunchable gift horse of the month for the month of October, our spooky gift horse.
Yes.
We have to do that. Also, as advertised today, we are going to be naming our winner of our DC Cosmic Cards giveaway. I told you last week you had just a few more days to get your reviews in. I have written down the name of every single person who's reviewed the program over on Apple Podcasts, including those people who thought that I was too negative, who thought that I was mean, and that I ruined everything. The irony that they hopped on and were a very small percentage of people being negative about our show because they didn't like how negative I was should not be lost. But even those people are in the running. I wrote down literally every person who's ever left a review. And in a little while here, we are going to randomly pick a winner of that. And you will win 179 out of 180 DC Cosmic Cards, as well as $3 to get that last one.
You too can have 99.7% of an entire deck of DC and the money to complete it.
I'm showing Coy the box now on Zoom. What's in there? What's right there? Look,
sweet,
look.
crispy bills.
I literally put 3. So if you think we were just doing a bit a few weeks ago, I was not. No, we are going to pay for you to get that last card on eBay. But that's just teaser. We're not doing that right now.
No. But I want to see a photo of the full deck when you get it, though. I put it in the Discord. I like that for me. I need that.
Coy, we have been dark for a little while. Do you want to see what the hotline has in store for us?
Yeah, I'm very curious what the Abyss has brought back.
Hey, Coy. Hey, Jake. This is Gilbert up in the Bay Area, and I just wanted to respond to some things you talked about in the previous month. Coy, you said that you were going to be running for president and that you had a party with a Marilyn Monroe there. And I have to say, since we already have a Kennedy running for president, I was a little concerned. I will vote for you over him, though. I will give you that because, yeah, that is a low bar, I know, but I will vote for you over him. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to give a quick recommendation since I'm the Superman guy for My Adventures with Superman. It is very much the closest in spirit to Superman that I've seen in a long time. And I know that saying this is going to invoke a certain director, so I will say it's probably about as far away from Snyder as you could possibly be. But I love it. It's like a romantic comedy. It's told from a perspective of Clark, Lois, and Jimmy Olsen, who are all interns for the Daily Planet at the same time. They're all very young. It's got Coy's boy, Jack Quaid, playing the voice of Clark Kent and Superman. He's very good at it. He did a live-action turn for his character in Star Trek Lower Decks on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Also killed it. Jack is becoming one of my favorite people in Hollywood. So I just want to reach out to you and say that. Yeah, you guys have a good week.
I
Gilbert
love
Short.
this.
So he's talking about the animated, the new Max original animated Superman,
which I have
show,
seen
right?
every episode of. I actually watched all this, and I did full reactions over Real Rejects. That's why I haven't really been talking about it in the Patreon pod because I don't want to double dip. But it is exceptional. Sure. I actually got to talk. I had the same assessment as well. There's a moment where there's a multiversal plot, and there's a evil Superman that Lois sees, and it causes her like, oh. And it's a really funny moment because in the reaction, I didn't mean to, and I was like, I know what this is going to cause accidentally. But the second they showed this like rampaging Ultraman-esque Superman, I was like, oh, that's the Snyder cut. And I was like, oh, I said it out loud. I said the quiet part out loud. But I was actually talking to Jack about the show on my birthday, and I mentioned that, and like there was this moment where we both like acknowledged how we see Superman and how it's been really hard to be proud and want to discuss the character in the climate where it feels like an inherent debate. Like you can't talk about Superman without it being like an asterisk of like, this is now a dialogue of like,
I agree. Snyder literally ruined Superman as a person in our society.
Now,
I agree
100%. But yeah, we were talking about that. So I love that you're loving Jack's take because I completely agree. I think Jack is an exceptional Superman. And
I don't think that I knew he was the voicing that character or those characters. I should
say.
Yeah,
he's so good, dude. The show's really good. I actually highly recommend it.
Nice. Yeah. It's, one of those ones that's on the list. It's a little low on the list, but
it impressed me, but I'm actually really glad you liked it because like his love of Superman means that like my interpretation, I feel more valid than like, oh, okay, the Superman guy.
Right. And also I don't think that Coy's presidential run lasted very long.
The thing about running for president is when you've got a joke as dark as Monroe, as well as acknowledging that the Kennedys were present because I had beer pong with a grassy knoll and a sniper celebrity shot at the party.
Lovely.
It's who I am. And, it's hard to run for president when the darkness is your ally. And I've got too many Irish sensibilities.
I personally think that the Access Hollywood bus was a bit over the
top. It was a bit much.
You.
And my pro-drug, anti-religious stance was certainly a bold platform. But here we are.
All right. Well, since I'm sure Coy doesn't have the information in front of him, thanks, Gil, for the hotline call. If you also want to have a call on the hotline, 818-794-0722. That's 818-794-0722. Or send a voice memo to contact@coycast.com. We also want to let everybody know we got another one from Duger 13, or one of the Dougs. He's been known to call in with a tune, and we are going to close this episode with the latest Duger tune that he sent in, because we don't want to edit it. We want to play it in its entirety.
Might I say his best?
So we're gonna. Yeah, you think so?
I mean,
lyrically, it's lyrically pretty funny. Yeah, it's well, but they're never bad.
No, they're never bad.
It's
just the ingenuity, the song choice, the way he incorporates many things I don't want to give away. It's just it's next level.
Yeah, it's topical, which I love. So Duger, thanks so much for that. We're gonna play that at the end of everything after the little commercial and everything. And we'll
Duger and Darth Vadad, thank you so much for my birthday presents. It means a lot that this podcast has survived many trials and tribulations, and getting those birthday presents. You guys are like, I don't know. I just love seeing Coycast people's names. I feel like I know them, and those gifts were really special. And I had a really great birthday this year, speaking of my presidential party, but finished off my Deadly Class run with a gift. I got a 200 bags and boards. So yeah, I've had a very comic-y birthday, and that's because of this podcast.
Wow.
So I've been bagging and boarding comics since my birthday, and that has made me so happy. I literally got 2 plastic. I've only got paper, like the classic long boxes. My dad got me a couple of really cool plastic BWC short boxes that are all black. So they're a little more presentational.
Nice.
Like I've got them out in my room. Like they look like...
Yeah, you can... They don't look like storage.
Yeah, so I've got a one
or just like
they
storage.
They don't look just like storage. I've got a Maximum Carnage long short box that I had out, but now I've got those 2 next to it. So I've been using the long box supplies that Duger got me, as well as the Deadly Class that Darth Vadad got me throughout the weeks, and it's been really kind to have such a comic-centric 35th. I feel like I've done something right, because at 35, I'm sitting around happily bagging and boarding comics in my room in disarray. It feels very right.
I love that. Speaking of comics, before I forget, because I wanted to mention this because I thought it was pertinent to our podcast here, is obviously I didn't bring everything with me, most of the stuff. So my reading list, all of the books, I had to decide before leaving LA, what do I throw in a box and put in a storage unit? What do I throw in my long boxes, so to speak, and what do I? And I went through, and there's obviously some books that have just been on my to read list for a while that I grabbed. But I have decided that this is going to be the season of the Bat. I brought all of my Bat books.
Whoa.
And I thought, you know what? Because there's a lot of that Loeb sale stuff that I've read out of order. And I know that the order isn't entirely important, but you're like me. You probably appreciate I'm a completionist. Yeah, and there's so much to those, and there's so many weird continuities, and so I went online and I just looked up, all right, what's the definitive continuity? And I realized that I have majority of them. That I have a few gaps in that collection, which I don't know off the top of my head, but I'd have to pull it up on my phone, right? So I brought all of those, and I thought this is going to be the season of the Bat. So instead of bringing a big hodgepodge of other books, I'm going to do that. Also, since it's shout out time, shout out to a friend of the pod, Robin West Parker, who handed me Saga Volume 9 trade paperback.
Nice.
Or is it 10 now? 10. Wait, would it be 10? What was the newest one? I think it's 10. I think 1 through 9 was the initial. Yeah. So because remember I was like, I still haven't read it since it came back. So I have that now. So that's also on the reading list. But yeah, it's going to be Season of the Bat, which I'm looking forward to.
Robin was also integral in me getting my Deadly Class full collection. So yeah, much love to Robin.
And one more quick Coycast shout out to a listener out there. I just want to say, Jason, thank you so much. You know what you did, and we sincerely appreciate you. And it went a very long way, so
very
appreciate
much.
that.
Thank you.
All right, so since we're giving appreciation, it's time to give some monthly appreciation.
Woo.
If you don't know what this is, then you got to head on over to patreon.com/Coycast and read all about it, because each and every month we put all of the names of our eligible gift horse patrons into the Wheel O' Names, not a sponsor, and pick a winner at random. And each month, the official unpunchable gift horse of the month gets a free item of their choosing from the shop over at dragonwagonshop.com. Get your name and lights in the Discord if you happen to be there, which you should be, by the way. It's completely free. And on top of that, you get to select something for us to watch and discuss over on the patron-only pod, which, by the way, Gil, we apologize. Your pick is no longer available anywhere, and we can't find it, so you're going to have to pick something new. Fight me.
We tried real hard.
And we tried real hard. We're not paying $20 to rent it, and we don't want to log into your weird thing. But we love you. Okay. Anyways, for all we know, Gil's he's gonna have 2 picks to give us, because that's the other thing, is there's no limit to how many times you can win this. Every month that you are an eligible gift horse tier patron, you are entered, so you can win this infinite amount of times, depending on how long the podcast goes for. So without any further ado, would you like me to spin this wheel?
So ready.
Alrighty. Slide it over here. The official spooky unpunchable gift horse of the month is Curtis Mason.
Curtis Mason
is the October unpunchable gift horse of the month. Let me pull up my little my history sheet here and see. I feel like it wasn't that long ago. Oh no, March. He was last a gift horse in March of this year.
The other half the year.
Curtis is the one who previously gave us the town.
Oh yes, and he sent the exceptional extended edition to both of us. He sent it to me some years back, and then you for the patronage. And Curtis is great, man.
Well, Curtis, thank you so much for your continued support of the show, and congratulations for being the unpunchable gift horse of the month for the month of October, the spooky month. And by the way, you don't have to pick a spooky themed pick for us. Don't feel pressure to do that. You can if you want to, but no pressure.
I told you, right, that I watched the extended cut. I'd watched all the different ways, but I showed my little sister, who's obviously from Boston as well, the extended cut with the ending that Curtis likes, and it was really interesting to watch the reaction. Like, we had a long conversation about the movie that was different because we grew up on now different versions of the movie, and it was really cool to have a cut that I was like, here's a different movie than I've watched.
It wasn't too dissimilar to Alexandra, because Alexandra had already seen the theatrical version of it.
Yeah.
And she watched it with me, like we discussed in that episode, and she was like, "Oh, okay." And it had been long enough where she didn't quite remember, but she definitely knew when something was new that she hadn't seen before. She was like, "Oh,
that's
okay,
a different." Yeah, and I brought my girlfriend to Boston, and it was so funny how she was like, "We're not going to Charleston, right? Like, we won't cross that bridge." And it was like the whole theme of the trip was what was like Charleston in the town. And I was like, "This movie worked."
Right. Hey, speaking of which, I don't know how much, I don't want to force you to talk about your personal life, but a couple weeks ago we had a little conversation about your personal life. Do you remember our little conversation we had about your personal life?
Did I or did I not immediately let you know that you were right? I think I'm pretty sure I gave you your full, you told me.
No, you
so.
did. When we tried to record last week and failed miserably, Coy let me know that if you're following on the T, Coy T, Coy took my advice, and I'm very proud of him.
I am very, very happily fully domestic. I've had a very fun move-in week, and I've gotten many I told you so's, and it's been, I don't know. You were right, and I feel like a mid-30s guy, and I'm okay with that.
He moved her in, you guys.
I did.
We're all so proud of you. They went out and got mason jars. The whole.
You know, there's so many different sizes of mason jars.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm 40.
I knew there was the standard, and I think I've seen the 4-ounce spices ones because they're cute. But I didn't know there was 128 ounce, a boot, and there's also 16. My place is just so. I'm a Freemason at this point.
Oh, I see what you did there.
But yeah, Jay, you guys heard it first here on Coycast.
I'm glad I was able to blow up your spot there because you did say it to me, and I figured we talked about it on the air last time anyway.
That's true. So we put the pencil. Turn it to pen.
This ain't. Yeah, listen. This is Coycast. This ain't that YouTube bullshit where you don't get the real person.
Yeah, I do feel like it was funny. I got into a lot of Twitter fights this week, and I lost a giant job in New York because of it. And
I'm sorry to hear that, but also congratulations.
Well, it was interesting because someone kept coming at me about the strike being a bad thing, and then they got really. And then I'm like, you know what? Just being dumb isn't illegal, but just do it quieter. But then they got about themselves about it. They're like, well, I'm in the industry and I didn't make any money while they were all striking. And I was like, if you're going to be selfish, I'm going to call you out more visually. Right.
Well, then you're a bad ally. And when it's your turn to, get what you deserve, don't expect anybody to back you up.
My point. So basically I reshared it saying I've lost thousands of dollars. I lost countless jobs. But I want people to have a fair wage and have respect and also have protections for their job. But I ended it with because I'm not a cunt. And so I spelled out what I would do, and because I'm not a cunt, I would do that. And one of the companies I was going to work with at New York Comic Con decided the word cunt was not an acceptable thing to have one of their freelance hosts say.
Oh, no!
It was.
See, this is why you and I need to move to England.
I just feel like free speech is important.
We would also be nobody gives a shit about us saying cunt in England.
London and Australia, the English and the Australians are allowed to, but out here that 4-letter word cost me a comma. But what are you going to do?
Right. What are you gonna do?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was saying because of my vocal Twitter hype this week, that has been people have been like, on YouTube you're a kitten and on Twitter you're a lion. Like I got a lot of memes of like how different I am, and I was like, yeah, but I feel like Coycast gets me. Like I feel like you guys get the real Twitter and even more authentic me than even Twitter. Like you guys get the highs and lows, the existential crises.
That's all I ever wanted.
That's real.
Literally all I ever wanted, over and over and over again.
First podcast we did together was that therapy app.
No, 100%. Do you want to do the thing that people have been waiting for?
I mean, there's a song about it. I think it's time.
Spoiler alert. Okay, did I just accidentally close the window? No, here it is. Alrighty, so it is time to figure out who is going to win this mostly complete set of 1992 to 3 inaugural DC Cosmic cards. We have been slowly opening an entire box. Once again, we must give a huge shout out to Mark Allen Heiliger over at The Hell With This for gifting us this giant box.
So much fun.
Assuming like, for him, it was just like, I want this out of my house. That's too much crap in the attic.
For us, it was months of entertainment.
And this was one of the funnest things we've ever done on the program. So thank you, Mark. This was an absolute blast. And I want to say thanks to everybody who went on over to Apple Podcasts and left reviews. We did get a nice little influx of reviews. And so, hopefully that goes a long way in helping us. We really appreciate it. There were a lot of the reviews that explicitly just stated the potential to win cards got me. You got me.
Yes.
Like everybody. But yeah, I've put literally the name of every single person who's ever left us a review. And I think we're just going to put all of these names right into this Wheel of Names website and pick a winner. And now, of course, people just sign up with a random name on their like Apple Podcasts. So we do have to devise some sort of system that proves
it's them,
that because they're going to reach out to us. And we're just going to take their word for it.
Well, now we've given so many people another idea.
Well, no, because what we might do is might have them like screen grab their review from their end, because it'll say like your, the little, you can show it and edit it.
Send us proof.
I don't know. In any case, there are a lot of names. Coy, I am thrilled with how many people left us reviews. I want to read a few of them, but I'm sure, should we read them now? Or do we risk people believing that if one of the people we read ends up winning it randomly, that we've rigged this somehow?
I think it's worth the risk. I think they'll believe it. Like we've got a true randomizer. Okay. So let's just hear some.
Listen, it's this. All right. So, this one is, I think, the very most recent one that we just got, by someone eternal_site. The potential to win cards got me. You win 5 stars. Are you guys aware that not only do they make a 3-card background image, but a 9-card full page of an image?
Oh, that's
meant
exciting.
to fit in the 9-card transparent page holders that went in that sweet notebook you had. You know the one. I did not know that. That's fantastic. I saw when we were going through them that they were individuals. I didn't realize they were 9-pagers. That's great. And now we need to try to find some of those. Anyways, I've always loved your guys' banter and general sense of humor and love for, quote, most people. If I had a gift horse, I'd let you punch it in the mouth anytime. Cheers. That's incredible. Thank you so much for that. Let's see what else we got here. Longtime listener, Harry Hands 81. I followed Coy since Marvel movie news. Love his fast talking opinions and will continue to consume his products. Would rate 6 stars if I could.
Yeah, back in the day, fan. Marvel movie news was approaching a decade ago now, which is insane.
Longtime listener, first time reviewer, 5 stars. Whoops. There it is. I've been a loyal Coycast follower since day one and a fan of Coy even before launching this terrific podcast with Jake. Their chemistry and dynamic is excellent, and they've built a wonderful community of weekly listeners who share their love for comics, art, pop culture, and pizza rolls. I highly recommend. Thank you so much for that one.
I love that review. That's fantastic. Who was that again?
Yeah. That's Maroon Man 13. Wait. Maroon Man 13. And all of these people are in the wheel. As well as some of the people who, who don't like me. I'll try to find 1 or 2 of those for you just for fun. 5 stars, Cosmic Cards. Loving the Cosmic Cards. Hope you guys 100% it, and I hope I can win them for my collection. Well, one half of your wish definitely didn't come true, but maybe the other one will. That one's Burke4691. Let's see. Coy and Jake are the best. Title says it all. Great nerd entertainment banter and always a go-to when I listen to podcasts. 4 stars. There wasn't a 5-star, but listen, still entered to win.
I respect the honesty. They're like, this is positive, but it's not perfect to me. I like that.
It's a go-to. It's a go-to, but listen, we're not breaking new ground here.
Nobody's reinventing the wheel here on Coycast.
Let's see what else. Just scrolling. We didn't plan this at a time. A good producer would have printed this all out, but I'm trying to find ones. Also, I feel like we've read some of these in the past. You got one?
You got some solid 4-star work going on right here. We're just vibing.
3-star. Cool. It's cool if you want to hear about nerd movie news, but skip the episodes about Letterboxd because these people are basic as fuck. Even the guy that says he watches, quote, indie movies only knows how to talk about mainstream Sundance movies. That one comes from us from Mexico, from Brau in Mexico.
We only watch 200 movies a year, and we're not indie enough. Those Sundance films, they're basic.
We're both basic as fuck, and indie movies is in quotes. So I guess the movies I'm watching aren't actual indie movies, because they're not indie enough for this person.
Their budget was dozens of dollars, Jake, dozens.
Also, it's listen, they gave 3 stars, and they're saying skip the episodes about Letterboxd, which are 2 episodes a year.
Hey, we got them for the other 20.
So skip, and a long time ago for the other 50, because it used to be a weekly show. 2 out of 50 ain't bad for the first few years of the podcast. Here, we'll read this one last one. Best podcast around. I'm a very long-time fan of Coy. Followed him since early episodes of Marvel Movie News. You better believe I was excited when I found out he had a podcast. It lives up to the hype that I set myself up for. I don't miss an episode. This pod also introduced me to a great guy. That's number 1, producer Jake. I wish you guys many more great episodes and maybe one day a filmed podcast. I'll leave it up to you. So thanks to everybody who left us reviews. Again, we got a bunch of new ones that came in, which were really very kind. And I think we have officially we have punched this gift horse enough
pretty thoroughly. He's been beaten. That said, I do consider our patron only pod a film podcast. Like, it's pretty like that's,
oh no, that is 100% just a it's pop, because again we talk about this stuff, but mostly 90%.
Yeah, just saying, if you're curious, we do dive into like 90% film, some TV over there, but yeah.
I'm talking a lot of TV this week and next, because of the move. It was tough to be like, oh, let's sit down and watch this movie that my brain isn't really concentrating on, but it was easy to be like, oh, let's watch one small chapter, 30 minutes of this story,
Yeah, that makes
a little bit easier. But alrighty, kids, it's time to discover who the winner is. I am spinning the wheel to see who is going to be the winner of our DC Cosmic Cards. Oh my God, there's so many names. They're so small. Let's see. The winner is The Boy Andrews. The Boy Andrews is the winner. Let's see if we can't find his review.
The Boy Andrews is a very fun name.
Okay, so this is literally one of our very first reviews we ever got.
This makes me so happy.
The review is positive, 5 stars. A positive and fun podcast. Coy's enthusiasm and positive attitude over comics and all nerd stuff is infectious. Great listen. This comes from the Boy Andrews, our winner, and he's in Great Britain.
Oh, this is so exciting. There's so many layers to this.
The Boy Andrews, assuming you're out there still and you're still listening, reach out to us at contact@coycast.com. Contact@coycast.com. Oh man, these cards are going to travel real far.
I also love that we were just praising Britain, because this guy can definitely say cunt and not get in trouble.
100%. Oh my gosh. Okay, so once again, the Boy Andrews, and so there is a little part of this silly game that we're doing that we didn't really discuss, and that is some people might not listen anymore, right? And they might have no idea. They might have no idea that they've won. So I'm gonna give the Boy Andrews like 30 days to reach out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd say like,
don't you think?
2 sets of recordings is reasonable.
Yeah. A couple, and if we don't hear from them, then I'll pick a new winner. We won't do it on the air because this will just be the show from now on until we find somebody who still listens. But we'll we don't
want to be embarrassed if every 4 weeks we're like, well, they're gone.
Right, exactly. Well, there you have it. The boy Andrew is the winner of the DC Cosmic Cards, 179 out of 180 plus $3 American dollars. You're still getting American dollars.
I love that we're sending him foreign currency as part of this.
We're not, there's no conversion rate, none of this bullshit.
This is amazing.
And I understand that maybe you won't be able to find this card in the UK on eBay that easily. I'm not sure how that works. I've bought stuff on eBay from overseas. I think you can.
It's just going to be funny that it's a quest.
Whether or not they have international shipping. We found it shipping to the US. That's your problem to deal with. We love you. Thank you so much for your review. Thanks to everybody who reviews the show. And listen, just because you missed out on your opportunity today, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't still head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or review. We really appreciate it. It's the cheapest way to support the program. That's for sure. Doesn't cost you nothing. Of course, if you would like to spend something, head on over to patreon.com, become a patron of any tier. Best way to support this program. And, lots of great stuff there. We've got a really fun thing happening next episode, Coy.
What do we got next episode?
So the next episode of the main feed, which is in 2 weeks from now, is the only time ever the number of the program will line up both on the main feed and the patron only feed. In 2 weeks from now, it is episode 162 of Coycast and episode 162 of the patron only pod.
Oh, that's very exciting. Like weirdly exciting. I love that.
I don't know why. So we're going to have some sort of 162 themed.
I'll think about what Uncanny 162 was. I think Amazing Spider-Man 162 was going into the
I like what your head is at. Issue 162s.
Yeah, we'll look at all the 162s and see if we know them.
Let's see if what if there's not a single memorable 162 of all comics history.
I'm racking my brain off the top of my head. I know 151 was the first Clone Saga. I think 162 a year later it's a fun era of Spider-Man, but I'm not going to look anything up until that episode, and I want to look through the covers and we'll talk about it.
I love this. I love everything about this.
Because a lot of comics have gotten to that level, so we can look at Deadpool's gotten to 162. It'll be more we usually celebrate 800s and 900s. This will be fun to look at more obscure stuff.
So yeah, that's fun. But I think I think that'll do it for this week's program.
Well, you lovelies, thank you for being patient last week. Thank you for still being here as we go remote. Please let us know how we're doing. Leave us some stuff in the Discord. It's always fun to read that. Also, keep calling, leaving reviews, 818-794-0722. See, I can do that and not know my own name. That's how ingrained that number is.
You did it.
818.
You did it.
Yeah, so that will be the Coycast number still while we're remote. And more than ever, we definitely want to hear from you lovelies. And also, we are very excited to get these mailed out, but we'll be thinking of other ways to make this remote excitement work. Check out the Patreon because we'll be diving in weekly over there into the art we have consumed the weeks prior. Movies, TV, film, plays, all sorts of goodness. And without further ado, here is perhaps my favorite song to come out of Coycast so far.
Phobia and Cheetah, Card 69's Peacemaker, Black Manta, Guy Gardner, Hogan and Katana, Eclipso, Sinestro, Jade and Metamorpho, Big Barda for the last months and weeks. They've opened cards at the end of the show. DC Cosmic cards like Flash and Lobo, there should be 180 in all. All doubles in Jake's hand, but Coy pulled 3 new ones as if it was planned. But it's done now because the last card was Northwind, the godson of Hawkman. The winner got $3 though, and a Mazo, Black Racer, Deathstroke, the Terminator, Blue Beetle, Blackfire, Chemo, but not Orion, Blockbuster, and Big Sir, Ice Dove, Hawk, and Lex Luthor. Oh, I can't believe that they could be 1 card short though in that last episode. What an anticlimactic show. But we still love you both though, at least they got Desad and Shadow Thief. In the Discord you'll read of how we tout our host chemistry. Darth, Vadad, Gil and I, Robin, TARDIS, and others post plenty. And every month we fight, 'cause I'm convinced the wheel of names must be rigged. Am I right? Ken Reels and Mass Llama try, but Gil wins for the 20th frickin' time. But this month we can't punch Desperado, Aquaman, and Toyman. And don't forget Gangbuster, Mr. Mixelplix with all his pronunciation drama. Booster Gold and Cyborg, Black Lightning and Black Condor. Oh, there's Rocket Red, Psycho Pirate, Vandal Savage, and Count Vertigo. Gold and silver and modern age Flash is fast, and Granny Goodness is slow. Diana Prince, we're all Wonder Woman simps. Everybody knows the new nickname for our host is Bacondro. It's the perfect portmanteau for this long hotline call. Oh yes, we love our Bacondro. Phobia and Cheetah, Card 69's Peacemaker, Black Manta, Guy Gardner, Hongan and Katana, Eclipso, Sinestro, Jade and Metamorpho. Oh, I can't believe that they could be one card short, though in that last episode. What an anticlimactic show, but we still love Bacondro.
It's Dragon Wagon.